examiner would not know who's on the other side. Because if he did, he could say, well, I'm going to look at the back of your hands and I'm going to say your ethnicity is such and such, when he already knew what the ethnicity was. So I hope everyone understands what we're about to undertake here. Now we know that with most men, the only parts of their body which are exposed are their hands and their head. For most men, during most of the year, even during much of the summer, most of your body is covered up with clothing. The overwhelming majority of your skin is not exposed. However, your hands and your head are exposed. But with many people, their style of headgear will give a clue as to their ethnicity. So if you see someone wearing a turban, or I have a whole set of different types of headgear, you would say, well, the person wearing that is from this culture. This is their cultural background. And then you could tell what their ethnicity is. The question, the basic question that this experiment is designed to determine is, can you determine ethnicity based on the complexion tone? And so we're going to go through several trials, and we'll start with Mr. Hassan, and he's going to come up and take a look at he is the examinee. The examinee is in front. In the real experiment, this would be a booth. But for purposes of television and this demonstration, we've only put a curtain up here. But when the real experiment is conducted, we'll actually have a booth, and the examiner won't know who's on the other side. So in this case, just for illustration, we all know each other. We know who's who and who came from where. So we're going to just demonstrate the general principles which would be followed when this experiment is conducted. Mr. Hassan, would you like to identify the ethnicity of the person who's inside the booth or behind the curtain based on the back of their hand, which is their complexion tone?
Okay, based on your description or explanation of the international identity, by looking at this hand in terms of ancestry, I can say this person is could be a Latino, and he could be Christian, and he might be from, let's say, Puerto Rico, and his language could be Spanish.
Okay. And let's find out if Mr. Hassan hit the nail on the head or not. Would we like to have our, at this point, we can have our examinee, and that's the person on the other side of the curtain. Again, Mr. Hassan was the examiner. He did the examining, he made the examination. And now let's have our examinee come out from behind the curtain, and we'll see whether or not Mr. Hassan was correct. Okay.
Mr. Hassan was not correct. He was wrong in all counts.
But actually, isn't that to be expected? Because it would be the same if we said, well, here's your height, and then he tried to guess your ethnicity based on your height. You couldn't do it. You can't do it. Would you like to step behind the curtain and become? Okay. Now, Dr. Poudel, we're going to pretend that you don't know who is behind the curtain.
Right.
Would you like to determine the ethnicity of the person?
I would imagine, looking at his hand, he could be a Caucasian, living in any country of the world, and he could have religion, any religion of the world, and he could be speaking any language of the world. That is what I can determine.
Okay, you made a very, very important point. Would you like to read this?
I have to put the
Glasses on. Okay, okay. Because he indicated that perhaps this person behind the on the other side of the booth might be Caucasian.
Okay, racial categories tend to be organized on the basis of a system which is based upon 3 categories. Listed in alphabetical sequence, these 3 categories are the following.
1.
Caucasian or Caucasoid.
Now you remember, you
Yeah.
looked at his hands and you said, well, that might be, he might be in that category.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But in reality, where does that word come from, Caucasian? It comes from the geographic region of Caucasia,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Or here again, second category.
Second category, Mongolian or Mongoloid.
And again, Mongolia is a geographic region.
Correct.
And what they did, they said, well, we're going to characterize everyone
Right.
who looks like that
Right.
by that name.
Correct.
And then they have the third category.
Third category is Negro or Negroid.
That shows you that that system
Yeah.
is bogus.
Yes.
Because that is the word, that's the Spanish word for this color. First, you name geographic regions, then all of a sudden you switch over here to a physical trait. That system of race is bogus. It's a hoax. It's not consistent. What race would you say a person from India belongs to?
Could be any race.
Or an Arab?
Could be any race.
When you start talking about race, you're really not making any sense because the racial categories are not consistent. So that's a very important point that you made.
Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Hassan, thank you. By the way, was Dr. Poudel correct when he identified you?
Well, since he knew who I was, and then all of his guess was correct.
Okay. All right, let's have our next examiner and examinee come up.
Okay, I'm the examiner, I guess.
All right.
So examinee, Team Fadi.
Okay. Now, would you like to identify
Yes.
the examinee? on the
Size
big-
3?
Right.
It's really hard to identify, actually.
It
This
is. Of
point.
course it is. It's very.
But
It's
I think
impossible.
I can't say from North America,
Okay.
okay, and religion, possibly Christianity, geographic region, Brazil,
Okay.
language Spanish. That's my guess.
Very good.
Okay.
Now let's have our
places.
our examinee come out in front, and let's see if the examiner was correct.
Am I correct? Question.
Okay.
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
No.
And of course, it's very, very difficult. In
Yeah.
fact, it's impossible. It's not possible to determine ethnicity from a complexion tone.
No.
Okay.
Exactly.
And yet you will hear people making that reference. Why don't you become the examinee? Right. Okay. Now he's going to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.